What's going to happen, though, you think?
Well, Diddy's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. I think he's probably going to get
Think he's
hit
in a
up.
saying, though?
I don't know. I don't even think it matters. I mean, it's a lot of it is.
But then it's just another Epstein.
There's
it's
murder
Ghislaine Maxwell, where
there's
someone's
murder
indicted
cases.
and nobody else indicted for to.
What's going to happen, though? You think Diddy is going to be in jail for the rest of his life? Nobody really knows how this is going to end. But just when it seemed like the biggest headlines surrounding Diddy were already behind us, the past came knocking again. Diddy has enough problems in 2026, yet somehow 1996 has returned to the conversation. Keefe D is talking. Old claims about $1 million hit on Tupac are resurfacing, and suddenly people are looking back at one of the darkest chapters in hip-hop history. Nearly 30 years later, Tupac is back under a microscope, and Diddy's name is once again sitting uncomfortably close to the story.
He says that Keefe D told him that Diddy was the one who offered money for the execution of Tupac Shakur.
So we heard this back in 2008. This is not new, but the fact that it was introduced into the trial is really stunning. So right off the Sunset Strip, there was a famous deli where Keefe D and Diddy were apparently sitting, and that's when Diddy said, $1 million.
The testimony being discussed in court brings back allegations that have followed this story for decades. But before jumping to conclusions, it's important to remember that these are allegations and claims that have not been proven against Diddy.
Puffy Combs was supposed to have given money to Zip Martin to give to Mr. Davis for payment of the Tupac. Fast forward, we go to Mr. Davis. He says he can rekindle that relationship with Mr. Zip Martin and get him to talk about the money that was given from Sean Puffy Combs to Mr. Martin that never got to Mr. Davis.
And did you guys or Mr. Davis come up with a plan to get leverage on Mr. Williams, Zip? And what was the idea?
Me, Detective Kading, ATF Jim Black, and Keefe D, Mr. Davis, flew to New York so Mr. Davis can work undercover to try to rekindle that friendship and business relationship with Zip.
And when Mr. Davis goes in to, do you remember the name of the club?
It's called the Zip Code in Harlem.
Does he in fact meet with Zip?
Zip, he did, but from what we gathered from Mr. Davis told us, he passed him off to his nephew, meaning Zip passed him off to his nephew to do business with him. Zip had cancer or something like that. He was sickly. He said he wasn't in the business no more, something like that. So it didn't work.
So he was unable to reestablish a business relationship and do it with Zip so that you would have leverage to then talk to Zip about what Mr. Davis told me. I'm just confirming the information you just provided. What?
You're just confirming that the information that you just were provided is what?
I'm just confirming the information that he just testified to.
So then, overruled. You may answer.
Yes, he couldn't rekindle the relationship.
And so you come back from New York.
Yes.
At some point, does the LAPD establish whether or not LAPD officers were involved in the murder of Mr. Wallace?
We found out that there was not any police officer.
Former Officer Gary Dale testified that Tupac refused to identify his attackers while being taken to the hospital. That moment has become another piece of the larger mystery surrounding his final hours. At the time, the Bad Boy and Death Row feud was already extremely heated. Tupac had publicly attacked Diddy, Biggie, and Bad Boy, while rumors about a possible threat against Tupac continued circulating. But does that prove Diddy ordered anything? No. The alleged connection has never been established as fact. Still, that uncertainty is exactly why people continue debating the story nearly 3 decades later.
to him to find out what had happened. Excuse me. Gather information to see who would.
Did you wind up riding anywhere with Mr. Shakur?
Yes, I rode to the hospital in
And
the ambulance with him.
During that time period, between the time you get to Mr. Shakur and the time period he gets taken into the hospital, are you able to have any sort of communication with Mr. Shakur?
He was still talking, and I was trying to convince him to tell me the name of whoever his assailants were.
And did he ever respond?
Yes, he responded, no, we'll take care of it. So, something like that.
No, we'll take
care of it, something like that.
Tupac wanted to handle it on his own because he knew that Diddy hired Keefe D to target him. According to investigators, Diddy wanted Tupac gone. Court documents read, Diddy faces questions about his alleged role in Tupac's passing after being mentioned 77 times in a new legal filing, with the Diddy evidence file beginning with the documents reading on November 18, 1995. Tupac was photographed with Sean Diddy Combs' baby mama, Sarah Chapman. Diddy described Sarah as being the one, his dream girl, so when she got with Tupac,
Diddy's name also became part of the conversation because of Tupac's accusations surrounding the 1994 Quad Studio shooting and the intense rivalry that followed. Keefe D later claimed Diddy offered $1 million to have Tupac and Suge Knight targeted. Diddy has denied involvement, and that alleged payment has never been proven. That distinction is critical. Claims, testimony, and rumors are not the same thing as evidence.
But I want to ask you about Puffy case. It looked like they're trying to connect him to Pac, man.
Well, the way the lawsuit and the way the law enforcement's been talking about it is that they believe that there was a check for $1 million that were paid out. What I've always said before is that follow the paperwork. Follow the paperwork. Kirk Burroughs came out of his lawsuit and said that Diddy had something to do with it. You understand? At that time, Kirk knew how to get the money, knew how to put the money into place. So follow the check. Everybody say, yo, nobody writes a check for $1 million for this, that, and the third. Well, like I told people a long time ago, the individuals that they try to say that had something to do with it or got paid for it showed us a check for $1 million. I don't know that to be true. I know that that individual told us that he got a check for Black Ground Records for selling a record company that I didn't know he had. I never said he did. So follow the paperwork, if that's true or not. So now if it goes back to that, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know. And I'm still gonna go with what I said. It's gonna come back, bro. It's gonna come back, bro. If they do, everything is already laid out there. All they have to do is 9 times out of 10, follow the paperwork. Keefe D gonna be free pretty soon.
You really believe that Keefe D, he gonna get free?
Yeah, he gonna be free. What I'm afraid of is this. When individuals was trying to get Keefe D out of jail, they was trying to get Keefe D out of jail to unalive him or have something to do with him being unalive. That's probably the safest place for him to be to a certain degree, because it definitely can happen there, depending on where you was being housed at, what ward, and the whole 9 yards. But if something happened to Keefe D, LA, the Vegas Police Department would be like, yo, our job, we was trying to do our job. We had to, for Tupac, we was gonna convict him, but he came up dead. No, that's a cop-out. They have no, what you call that? They have no evidence. They have no evidence to prove that Keefe D had anything to do with the death of Tupac Shakur.
I don't know, man. I mean, we all seen that video of him crying, man. It looked like he losing hope.
He know that he's in a position and he's in a situation that he was told to make up some lies.
Then there's another uncomfortable part of the conversation, the number of major figures connected to that era who have died over the years, including Biggie, Tupac, Kim Porter, Heavy D, Andre Harrell, and Craig Mack. Their deaths happened under completely different circumstances, and their connections to Diddy do not establish wrongdoing, but the list has inevitably fueled speculation and kept conspiracy theories alive.
Record started with 5 people: Andre Harrell, I'll Be Sure, Heavy D, and Puffy. And Kim, she was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only 2 left are Puffy and Al almost died. Isn't that interesting? You want to know what they all had in common, though? They were all writing tell-all books. And I'll Be Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened to him? There's too many coincidences. So, we gonna get you and your little dog, too.
And then Gene Deal enters the story. As someone who worked as Diddy's bodyguard during the Bad Boy era, Gene was around that world when the rivalry with Death Row was unfolding. He says he was asked to testify, but refused. That raises an obvious question. Why would someone who has publicly discussed these events for years refuse to take those stories into a courtroom?
Made statements he has been around us on numerous occasions. I've seen Keefe D around us on numerous occasions. You know, at concerts, in the hotels, several different places. I've seen them, you know, gambling with each other, having fun. So if they bring me in on the Puffy, and it's only because they want to make some connections that Keefe D did have some kind of communications and did have some kind of dealings with Diddy. That's why they want to bring me in. You know what I'm saying? I spoke to Keefe D's lawyer, and he wants me to come and testify. And I told him that I was not going to testify. I'll be telling the prosecutor the same thing that I'm telling him. I ain't coming in there on behalf of Keefe D, and I ain't coming there on the behalf of the prosecution to testify against nobody. I'm not doing it. You can't get me to go in there and testify. And if I had to sit down, you know what I'm saying, because they want to deem me a hostile witness, or they want to deem me uncooperative, you know what I'm saying, and hold me in contempt, they could do that. I don't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going in there testifying for nobody, against or for nobody. You know what I'm saying? And I know I've said some things, you know, regarding Keefe D and Puff on the internet, but that ain't got nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going in there, you know, to testify. For what? They already got information. They already know that. What I'm going to testify to, and for what? To establish what?
What did his lawyer want you to testify about?
Well, when I spoke to him, he just said, I said some good things about Keefe D, and he wanted to bring me in, you know, to testify on his behalf on some of the things he had heard on the internet. You know what I mean? So, bruh, he didn't get into detail, but I'll tell you what I told him, you understand, about this whole situation. I said, yo, if you want anybody to testify, let me give you what you call a get out of jail free card. If he would get Phil Carson, the FBI detective who worked on Biggie's case, and he worked on some of the information on the Tupac case. If he would get Phil Carson to come in there and to testify, you know, for the behalf of the defense, to prove how they set this whole thing up with Keefe D, how they faked the proffer agreement, how they gave them information, you understand? How they gave him information and gave him a script to read. I heard Phil Carson say this right out of his mouth. He's an FBI detective. He's talking about LAPD. He's talking about LAPD, Greg Kading gave Keefe D a script to read. So if you want to say And everybody talking about he was running his mouth, he was doing this, he was doing that. He was only saying this that LAPD told him to say. He was given a script. Phil Carson said that himself, an FBI detective, bro. So if Phil Carson, who was a decorated FBI agent, said that Keefe D was given a script to repeat in a fake felonious proffer meeting, then that's his witness. That's his get out of jail free card. They ain't got nothing on him. It is what it is. So I told Keefe D lawyer that, and he was surprised. Or he was faking, because he was like, Phil Carson? I said, yeah, Phil Carson. How you not know that? I mean, we had a long conversation about that. He was laughing, he was joking. He said, yo, I'm gonna look into that. I'm going to look into that. I said, I don't know why you haven't.
How is he Keefe D lawyer and he don't know who that is?
He could have been faking, bruh. He could have been throwing the Jake move on me or whatever. But if he don't have Phil Carson coming in there to testify on the behalf of the defense on what he know about the LAPD and what they did regarding this felonious proffer agreement they gave Keefe D, then he ain't as good as lawyer that, you know, he making out to be.
Gene Deal also believes people may be focusing on the wrong part of the story. Instead of simply looking at gang violence, Keefe D and Diddy, he has raised questions about the role of law enforcement and what happened around the investigation. His theory adds another layer to an already complicated case.
Wanted the LAPD in Vegas during the time of Tupac and Suge Knight and them performing along with the Mike Tyson event. So I'm asking myself, and I want people to really think about this, who was the one who assigned or wanted to go and help the Vegas PD? Who was the one who came up with, we want to go with the Vegas, out there in Las Vegas, what cops or what chief of police or who, because the chief of police could only sign off on something like that, but who came up with the ideal that we need to be in Vegas to help the Vegas police officers? They never needed help before. Why does the Vegas Police Department need LA to come and help on this given event? Who came up with that idea? It had to be somebody in the police department. It had to be somebody in the police force. It had to be somebody who wanted to be there. I believe Suge Knight knows those people. He may have even seen those people. Because Suge said something that you gotta pay attention to. If you solve the Tupac case, you solve the Biggie case. And who was involved in those two cases that could have Tupac and Biggie? Because you, me, any gangbangers, any regular citizens would not get away with killing any one of those people at any time. I'ma say this, and I truly believe because of the LAPD rogue cops committing robberies, cops selling, they had something to do with both of lining up both of those individuals. If you go back and you look at the whole situation, brother, Why is the LAPD out there? Why? What are they doing? What are they doing in Vegas on that night? Why?
And now those decades-old theories are being examined in court. Keefe D's previous statements have been presented, prosecutors are laying out their revenge theory, and the defense is challenging the reliability of what he has said over the years. For the first time, many of these long-running claims are being tested inside an actual courtroom.
Week, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the former gang leader of the Southside Compton Crips, went on trial, accused of orchestrating Tupac's murder. And this was the alleged motive. At a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, this is the nephew of Dwayne Davis being beaten by members of Tupac's Death Row Records, including the rapper himself. An act of revenge for an attack months earlier. This week, the court heard recordings from 2009 of detectives interviewing Dwayne Davis. He tells them he was in the white Cadillac that's pulled up alongside Shakur's car and passed it to his nephew, Orlando Anderson.
I thought he was going to pull on my side. You know, that's my little nephew. I'm going to look out for him, you know. And he pulled on his side.
So you were fitting to blast if you had to, or you were just...
Yeah, if we would have been on our side, I would have blasted.
Okay.
The former gang leader repeated these admissions 10 years later in a memoir he co-wrote about his involvement.
A constant thing that always goes through these statements is Dwayne Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur for putting hands on his nephew. In the book, he says, them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their...
Yet despite his published confession, Davis has pleaded not guilty, and his defense lawyer has told jurors not to believe his client, saying he was known to talk rubbish and the state cannot prove his guilt.
Keefe was never charged for any of what he said during that time period. And it's because they knew he was full of crap. Otherwise they would have.
Yeah, you're essentially telling the jury that your client is a liar.
Yep, I am. Yes, that's true.
You better treat me as a hostile witness. I don't want to send him to prison. Sure. Even though we don't like each other. Sure.
Despite the no snitching rule, this trial is reliant on the self-snitching of Dwayne Davis himself. He even told detectives he spoke to Sean Diddy Combs about plans.
And that's where we leave it for now. This trial is far from over, and more names and old allegations could still emerge. Subscribe, stay close, and leave your questions below, because we'll be watching what comes next.